Welcome everybody to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I'm Tats. I'm here with Donald. Rob and Evan are not here today. Hope they're enjoying their day at work. And speaking of getting to work, the media is making quick work of going and defending their man Boone and trying every which way to legitimize him as a manager. And I think they're really doing a disservice to their credibility in doing so. Donald, what do you take on how the media is handling Boone's failures?
I mean, listen, you've seen it from a number of guys. So we had the best example was Ryan Rucco during the wild card game. He said, "Aaron Boone has saved the game." That was a big statement to make, especially considering we were losing 3-0 at the time. Aaron Boone has saved the game. That's a ridiculous statement to make. Really. Totally ridiculous statement to make. You know, we've seen since the wild card loss, the embarrassment that now we've seen the ESPN guys getting involved. You know, we've seen Buster Olney using what was his tweet was he was using average wins. Aaron Boone averages 98 wins, right? And he used the average wins as some sort of defense for Aaron Boone, defending his buddy, right? The ESPN guys defending their buddy. Then another one was John Heyman. His tweet was much worse, much more embarrassing. I went to town on John Heyman. I'm going to get that tweet up in a minute. He was using his win percentage of 600, and then you've also seen Ian O'Connor, who I respect is a very, very good writer. He's gone to bat big time on Aaron Boone. He had a New York Post article. Aaron Boone, his winning percentage puts him up as one of the greatest Yankee managers of all time, right? Absolute nonsense. Come on, stop, right? And then it's not just that. Now they're all just going out falling over each other. Obviously, we know Michael Kay is best friends with Aaron Boone, so that, I mean, you got to take that with a pinch of salt. Although credit to Michael Kay, he's gone to town on the organization on his show, which is great. So there's
Michael Kay has had a little bit of redemption these last couple of days.
He has. He's been fired. But you've seen WFAN, you've seen ESPN. They're trying to defend Aaron Boone. I think a lot of this is because Brian Cashman is not stupid. He's quite smart. He was like, if I hire a media guy who's just a nice guy, right, but he's protected by the media, then there's be very little that can come back and blow back on me, because they're going to protect their buddy Aaron Boone. And that's precisely what's happened. I mean, it's
you may have 100 reporters that are on your side, but you also, in retrospect, have 100,000 fans that are fed up with mediocrity. And
they don't care.
And they don't care what we say. They never did. All they care about is, having asses in the seats, selling chicken buckets, and, having, a popularity contest of who women think are the cutest ball player. So we want championships. We don't want, the Yankees are going to be popular no matter what. And for all these reporters that are saying, and analysts that are saying, bring up the win percentage. This is not Pittsburgh. This is New York. Yeah. How many games you win during a season does not matter if you are not in the World Series. It means nothing. It could be an 82-win team that gets into a wild card, wins a championship. That's what we care about more. Not that they want, not that they get triple digits in wins. It's all nullified when they get eliminated right off the bat.
Well, that's 100% it. But it's the Yankees' MO. The Yankees' MO that they've promised the fans is that we're going to be championship. We're looking for championships every single year. So that is the MO. Unless the MO has changed, but they've not told the fans that the MO has changed, then we have to base them on that alone. Championships, if you don't win a championship, then there's something, then obviously they haven't reached their mission statement.
Yep.
And they've not done it they've done it once in 20 years. Once in 20 years. So there's obviously something wrong with the organization. Here's John Heyman's tweet. Some folks / fans up in arms about Cashman and Boone after Yankees lost. Cashman isn't going anywhere. Beyond Brian Cashman having a year to go, they make the playoffs almost annually, and he has 4 rings as a GM. As for Boone, he has a .601 win percentage and is beloved by Cashman and the players. And talking Yanks got involved. they were like, that's a complete swing and miss. Even if you're trying to defend them, you just did it all wrong, which is spot on.
Yeah.
My reply was, they've never brought back a manager for a 5th year without winning at least one title. That is a fact. They've only brought back one manager since 1922 that have gone into a 5th year without a title. That's it. And that was back in 1922. It's never happened since. So why are we starting now? That was what I said. No excuse to start now after declining rapidly, finishing 3rd in the AL East despite championship expectations, finishing 6 games above 500 the year before. Stop the winning percentage nonsense. That's what I said to John Heyman, because this is the narrative. 601 winning percentage. Who cares? What's his winning percentage in October? It's 500. What's his winning percentage the last 2 years in October? Below 500.
I have a theory, and this is a complete pipe dream, and maybe not a dream, but wouldn't it be ironic if the Yankees win their next title in 23, 100 years from when they won their first one? Wouldn't it be fun if that was the year that they broke this drought?
Well, it's not going to happen unless major changes are made, man. That's just the reality. Major changes need to happen in order for
sometimes when it's just the two of us,
win a championship.
I get these
here's
that pop in my head.
Here's the reality. There's been 8 different winners of a title since the Yankees last won one in 2009. There's been 11 different teams that made a World Series since the last time the Yankees even made it.
Does that speak for the growth of the game, that it's not just...
But it also means that the Yankees have been lapped. It also means the Yankees have been lapped. So when Aaron Boone said,
everybody's catching up to us.
Oh, everyone's catching up to us. Well, the league's caught up to us recently. It was crazy. And then now you're hearing me just saying, oh, he misspoke. He didn't misspeak. It was a moronic, arrogant thing to say. It's arrogant. And that's what the Yankees are right now. They're very arrogant. They've got a bunker mentality. They've surrounded themselves with yes men that can never be wrong. They haven't done a good job. They've not done a good job here in a long time. And now you're starting to see it. Now you're starting to see the Yankees decline. That was an arrogant thing to say. And also, the fact that I bring up those stats means that there's teams that are doing things better than what the Yankees are. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. 8 different teams have won. The Royals have won a championship. The Giants have won a championship. They have all been here and done it. The Royals, I think, have been to 2 World Series since the Yankees last made it.
And they went to back-to-back. They lost the first one. They came back and finished what they started the year before
100%.
And taking the win. And that,
the Royals. What are the Royals now? No one knows anything about the Royals.
Yeah. But you use the word arrogance, and it brings us back to when you're talking about with the reporters. And Kevin Kernan from ball9.com had the perfect article, and the first word in his article is arrogance. I mean, there are many reasons the Yankees continue to fail year after year with the game's most enormous payrolls, but arrogance is at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Because they think they're better. They think they are better than they are, both on the field and especially in the front office. As a result, they have locked themselves up with some horrible contracts as well. And I think Kevin, again, because Kevin is one of the best writers out there, and Ball9 is a phenomenal site. Yeah. That he just hit the nail on the head. They are so stuck in their own bubble that they feel like they are so successful because they are in the hunt. They're in the race every year. But if you're not winning the race, or it doesn't matter.
It goes deeper than that.
You got to win the race.
That's why I've been championing this article, because I think it's really important to get this out. This needs to be known. This article goes in depth about what is going on here, because we're getting
the link to this article is on our Twitter feed. We'll tweet it out a little later today again.
Yeah, I shared it on mine.
For those watching on YouTube, the link will be in the description as well, because it's a great article, and Kevin does a phenomenal job breaking it down.
Well, Kernan is no joke. He's been on the beat with the Post for like 45 years. So he knows the game inside out. He's been a writer. He's done the whole thing. He's not trying to curry favor with Cashman and Aaron Boone, which is the reason why I've kind of brought up the other guys, because I think that there's a lot. It's almost like Cashman kind of runs it like a politician. When he needs a narrative out there, he uses certain media stooges to go and do the dirty work for him. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of his colleagues are falling over themselves trying to defend the things that are basically indefensible. So the article goes further here, right? He says they have the Teflon Don running the Yankees and Brian Cashman, and the sleepless in the dugout manager and Aaron Boone. And once again, this October, they have been ousted. This time, they couldn't even make it out of the AL wildcard game. Since 2003, the Yankees have won as many World Series as the Marlins, which is one. That says all about the organization, which is nothing like it once was. From owner Hal Steinbrenner down to Cashman to Boone, and a number of players, including Gary Sanchez, whose contribution to postseason baseball was one swing, a fly out. So we go further here. There's a lot. He goes into a lot of things here. So we'll try and break down certain things that he says here, because I think it's quite interesting. Boone, meanwhile, had the gall to say after the game that the league has caught up to the Yankees. The league has closed the gap on us, he says. Closed the gap? There's not been a gap in a long while. The Yankees have not won the World Series since 2009. That's the last time they've been to the World Series. In 2020, they lost to the Rays, blah, blah, blah. He goes through our awful history in the postseason lately. He goes, there is no gap. Close the gap? What gap? Teams have closed the gap on the Yankees. Teams have lapped the Yankees. That's the reality. That's the truth of the matter. That's a classic no accountability cop-out by Boone. Instead of pointing out what's really wrong, it's laughable that he said that. So he's really going to town here on Aaron Boone. He says, essentially, Boone takes the Yankees fans for fools. Yankee fans are not fools, he says. Boone and the Yankees had 162 games to get better, and they haven't. Aaron Boone runs a country club, is what he says, which is very true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he says, the Yankees had all spring training to get better and got worse because the Yankees under Boone are a country club. He says, for example, their base running has been atrocious all year. Base running takes work. It takes effort. It's not something you can just turn on and off. Secondary leads are something to be admired and worked on in the Yankee analytical playbook. The league has passed the Yankees long ago. It's the Yankees who needs to close the gap on the best teams in the league. He says Alex Cora runs circles around Boone. And so, we go right through it. And he says so many changes have to be made here for the Yankees. But we'll see if Hal Steinbrenner has the stomach to make it. He says he doubts it. We'll see if he is sick to the stomach with Boone. Also, he says Cashman usually finds a scapegoat. You know, when it was Joe Torre, when it was Joe Girardi. Now Boone's contract is up. We'll see. He says Cashman had his success in New York, but that was a much different time. Once he went all in on analytics and less in on the teachings of the game by veteran baseball people and listening to its scouts, it's changed for the worse. Cashman will probably keep his job when be given another opportunity because Hal Steinbrenner seems more excited about cashing checks than winning championships. He says that he spoke to Baseball Insiders. This is something that's really important, really worries me when he says it. He says, others in baseball have noticed Cashman's poor performance. And it's not just what we're seeing at the major league level. Cashman is horrible, one top talent evaluator who knows the Yankees inside out told Ball 9. What he has done to that organization, he's ruined their minor league system. And this is not just me saying this. Others have seen that also. He says the Yankees have a lot of compliant people, as we were talking about bunker mentality. The Yankees have a lot of compliant people on staff who buy into all that analytical bullshit, and none of them are teaching the game anymore because Brian Cashman has got rid of all the teachers in the big leagues, in the big league system. He's gotten rid of them all in favor of data science and people looking at iPads. He says the Rays use analytics, but they also have teachers in their system.
Yep.
And
well, that's the problem. The Yankees have gotten, and again, this is another point that Kevin Kernan hits very well. They've gotten so focused on, with the analytics department is such a focal point that the fundamental parts of the game are gone. We saw, we've pointed out how many times during the year the base running blunders, the lack of base stealing, the lack of speed on the bases was a major, cog in the wheel of what prevented this team from being successful. And not just this year, and years past.
100%, man. There's a lot of compliant people there. It's kind of like a bunker mentality. Brian Cashman doesn't want to admit he's wrong. And the last point that he makes here, which is also very important, he says, another question for Cashman. When was the last time young Yankee players got better and not worse? Look at the career slides of Sanchez, Torres, Debbie Garcia. And then we could also mention Clint Frazier. The Yankees did not want Sanchez to get anywhere near catching Cole. So let's look at it. Let's have a look at here. We've got Gary Sanchez. What value has he got now?
None.
0. And Duhar. Not even mentioned on Duhar. And Duhar was a rock star when he came to the Yankees in his rookie year. What's happened to him now? Got no value. 0 value. Gleyber Torres, they have screwed Gleyber Torres massively. And what's he got now? 0 value also.
Well, that's what it is. They waited, 4 months to put him in the position that he's actually good at?
2 years, bro. Not just 4 months. You have to remember the last year as well.
Yeah. That's 2 seasons now, or 1.5 seasons, that you have forced this poor kid to play a position that he clearly, you could see, was not comfortable with. A game here or there, to get somebody off their feet, you want to shuffle it around, fine. But to have him at shortstop every game, we said in the beginning of the season during spring training, we all sat here and we had said we wanted to see how spring training was going to develop, if Torres was going to be able to fix some of those mistakes. And we saw videos of him, at home, working on his footing. Footwork is something that comes natural. You can't just teach that kind of stuff. They forget about that.
Teaching him. That's another problem, though. They don't actually have any teachers on the big league staff now, apparently.
No, well, that's the other problem is the development. Everybody's screaming at, and we were championing for it also, is these younger guys coming up. But if our development is so bad, aren't we just going to get the same bullshit that we've been getting?
That's exactly what we're going to have, man.
So, they're going to see, Sweeney, Peralta, Volpe, Wells. Do we really have faith that they're going to be that next step?
No, I don't. Unless they have huge changes.
Yeah.
They need to bring in
rinse and repeat.
Exactly. If we roll out the same coaching staff, nothing's changing, man. And it's not just Aaron Boone. I can't stand Aaron Boone. I cannot stand him. I think he's the biggest joke of a manager in baseball. However, a lot of this isn't his fault. He is only doing what is asked of him from above, right? Boone has to go. He's a terrible manager. But Brian Cashman controls everything. He has his tentacles in every single aspect of the organization. And that's why the organization sucks right now. So the coaching staff got Nevin. He's embarrassing himself since the wild card game. He embarrassed himself on the wild card game and then since the wild card game because he's trying to defend himself.
He defended his move.
Which is ridiculous. And he went after A-Rod. Now, I listen, I don't have a problem necessarily with A-Rod, but I know the rest of the panel does, right? And that's fine. We have that debate here. But no one can debate that A-Rod knows the game inside out. He did it. He was a savant of baseball. He studied it while he was playing, and he played it at a Hall of Fame level, right? So when Phil Nevin went after him, he says that A-Rod has never been in that situation before. Nonsense! A-Rod's a Hall of Fame player. He's been in that situation plenty of whether to run from third or not. Yep. So Phil Nevin is just got a bunker mentality, just like the rest of the coaching staff. They're all just locked in on themselves. I'm never wrong mentality. All Phil Nevin has to say is, you know what? I took that extra risk because I thought we needed a run. It didn't work out, and I'm sorry. That's all we really need to see. An apology. All I need to see from Aaron Boone on that joke with press conference, instead of him
just
being
hold
arrogant,
yourself accountable. That's it.
Accountability. That's all I'm looking for. All Aaron Boone has to say is, you know what? I hold myself accountable above all else. And
How
I
many
did
times
get the
that
job
we've
done
lost
this year.
off on the, when we've signed off on these shows, and I've said, wow, I was terrible. I was not on my game today. It's which happens a lot, by the way, for the audience listening. So, it's just one of those. If you didn't have your A game, you didn't have your A game. Don't try to hide it. You need to rely. When it's the four of us, we're able to kind of bounce off of each other where none of us fall. That's what the Yankee coaching needs to do. They need to start holding each other accountable and making sure that mistakes don't happen on a regular basis.
Which happens.
They don't know how to do that.
No, because they're never wrong. Aaron Boone said that he can hold his head up high from his time here.
Well, he's holding his head up high because the quicksand is up to his chin.
Exactly. He can hold his head up high. Yeah. He says he can hold his head up high, which, you can say that if he wants. I think that's just a lack of accountability. He could have honestly said, I really wish I could have got us a championship over these 4 years. I'm going to look and see what I could have improved on. A little bit of accountability.
Improve on your coaching.
It can't hurt, because I'm running on the sad reality that there's a good chance Aaron Boone comes back. So if he does, major changes need to happen.
Well, because all we're going to get with the next manager is we're just going to get the next Boone.
Well, that's a great point.
That's going to be, relying, being pushed to rely on the analytics.
Right.
And Cashman's going to pull the strings on everything going on, because Cashman will not admit he's wrong in anything. And like we always say, and we should, believe me, I think the Yankee fans have this phrase copywritten, is, Cashman thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and he's not. Because if he was the smartest person in the room, the Yankees would still be playing baseball.
Exactly. Listen, you're spot on, man. Listen, what Michael Kay has been saying is 3 things are going to happen here. 1, they bring back Aaron Boone, nothing changes. And this is coming from an Aaron Boone supporter.
Yep.
Aaron Boone comes back, nothing changes in the organization.
No.
2, Aaron Boone is fired, but they bring back an Aaron Boone 2.0. Nothing changes, he says. 3, the Yankees fire Aaron Boone and bring in like a Bruce Bochy or a Buck Showalter. Then that means that the Yankees have given up on the analytics thing and that they've made serious changes to the organization. Those are the only three options that are going to happen this offseason. So there's if you look at that, that means there's a 67% chance that nothing happens at all. And I'd say that's probably the most likely scenario, because Hal Steinbrenner, as said in that article, doesn't have the stomach for a massive change, man. He doesn't have it. He's not that type of guy. He's happy to collect. He's happy to send off the checks, and he's happy to rake in the money from the logos and the shirts and the chicken buckets and the expense at Yankee Stadium. He's more than happy to do that. If the Yankees can sneak into a wild card every year and lose, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. As long as they're not being embarrassed, then that's what he really cares about. He's not his father. I'm not asking him to fire everybody. I'm not that type of fan. I'm more than happy for the Yankees to rebuild as long as there's a plan. There's not been a plan here for years.
It's also the Yankees have forgotten. Look at the Rays and Boston game last night, where the Rays have a 4-0 lead, and what do? Arozarena steals home to make a
final. There you go.
That type of aggressiveness is what we expect from the Yankees. It's the game's not over until that last out, and you keep that pressure on, because they caught Boston sleeping on that. That was amazing to watch. If you haven't seen it, look up the video. of a Rosarina stealing home. Again, and Evan called it. He said that a Rosarina was going to have a spotlight this fall season. And from the first game, Rosarina was the highlight.
He's a phenomenal player, man. Tampa have two fantastic players in Rosarina and Wander Franco. Those two guys are going to be stars. Wander Franco's going to be a star.
Oh yeah,
and so is Rosarino. He was a postseason star. He was that last season.
You know,
He's
and
a great player.
That's what I like about the game right now is the stars of the game that are carrying the sport are spread out. I do like that about the game. You know, the Yankees don't have to have them all on one roster.
Well, they only got two.
Huh?
You only have two.
Yeah. And yeah, we have Judge, Stanton, we'll put and Cole.
Yeah, you can maybe put Cole there. Yeah, he's lost a lot of love from the fan base, but I agree with you. I would say, yeah, there's three good players the Yankees have in their team, but they don't have many guys that are young that's coming through right now that is ready.
You got Acuna in Atlanta. You got Tats in San Diego. You know, you still got Betts is still in that caliber. You know, of that caliber in LA. You know, you got Trout, Ohtani. You know, the talent.
Vlad Guerrero.
Vlad, DeGrom. You know, there's so much talent around the league that is spread out. You know, throughout the teams. The game. It tells me that the game is getting healthier again. That it's not just it's not just the same teams that are playing every year.
No, I mean, completely agree with you, man. But it's also a sign for the Yankees that they need to work on because
that's how the league passed us by.
They have.
That's when they closed they didn't close the gap. They created their own gap away from us.
Because they're developing talent. What was the last talent the Yankees have developed? The only one that's worked out has been Aaron Judge. Yeah. And he's almost 30.
Yeah.
That's a big problem, man. The last great hope we had was Gleyber Torres. And the Yankees have destroyed him. Mm-hmm. Destroyed him to a shell of himself. And they destroyed Gary Sanchez to a shell of himself as well. And that speaks to the way the organization is run. You know, I think they're being brought up well in AAA. I like what's happening in AAA because we've got plenty of talent. AA, AAA is not the problem. It's when they reach the big league level. That's the problem. And
everything that they've learned is going out the window, which is why I was making the argument a month or so ago that it's not with the minor leaguers. When they get to the major leagues is when I start to have a argument. I'm not worried about their development in the minor leagues because you can look at their numbers in the minors. You can see that their win-loss record is actually sometimes it compares better to the major league roster. So the development is not where I'm having an issue with. It's the fundamentals on the major league level is where the Yankees that's where they need to start.
It's shot. Because Brian Cashman is in charge, he's gotten rid of all the teachers that were in the coaching staff. You could look at Rob Thompson. We can look at Pena. Pena is one of my favorite coaches the Yankees had hired. He was a very good catcher, very good catching instructor. The Yankees got rid of him. The Yankees are obsessed with data analysis. And here's what I think about data analysis. I think it's got a place in baseball. It's impossible to say it doesn't. It helps with finding players. It helped us find Clay Holmes. It's helped us find Peralta. It's helped us find players.
Well, the analytics needs to be a tool. That can't be your focal point.
A tool.
Your focal point of your game has to and should always remain fundamental. Fundamental baseball is where, and then you branch off and you tweak it using analytics and the StatCast data. That's how you marry the two together.
Yeah.
But the strength of your team, if it's not the fundamentals, you're not doing it right. That's why Tampa's been so successful. They were able to get rid of two of their best pitchers and was still able to come back and have a triple digit win season and put on a show last night.
they're a much better organization, top to bottom. And then
because they stick to the fundamentals. Like every other team sticks to the fundamentals. Except for the Yankees, because they're smarter.
You already said the word perfect. Tool. It's a tool.
Yep.
It's a tool to be used. It's not the be all and end all. And that's what Brian Cashman thinks it is. He thinks it needs to control everything. He thinks it needs to control the way a game is played. And he thinks the way the season is planned out. They plan the season, man. They've taken massive chunks of the season off, preparing for future series, all in the name of data analysis. It's nonsense. The Red Sox and Tampa Bay never take a game off. They fight every single game. They don't take wins for granted. The Yankees do.
I was listening to the Red Sox broadcast while I was at work last night. Joe Castiglione, they were talking about with the lineups and with the Rays bench. And he made a statement that I thought just spoke volumes for how well the Rays run their organization and how great Kevin Cash is. Okay. Where Joe says you have, these players, he was naming off the bench players, Meadows, and he goes, and I guarantee you one thing, he goes, you will see them tonight. He goes, Kevin Cash uses his bench perfectly. And and he was right. Kevin Cash, whether they're in the starting lineup or not, every player contributes to that.
Because they all know their role. They all know their role. And they're all bought into their role.
And they're all in on it.
Yes. Now you compare that to the Yankees. Look, Voit, he lost his starting role. He cashed it all in. He's just like, I'm not interested.
Instead of finding a new spot for him to contribute, they just buried him on the bench.
Yeah, but also look, Voigt's attitude. He was just sort of like, eh.
Well,
Gary Sanchez, every single time Gary Sanchez, every time he's been dropped, he kind of says things. Well, I expect to be starting. That speaks to people that don't buy into their role. If they're not, I don't think that the Yankees communicate to the organization, but also Tampa Bay have flexible guys. They can use a bunch of lineup variations and they'll be successful because not only have they bought into the role, they're athletic. They've got a bunch of athletic players. Brian Cashman has built a team of DHs. It's one thing that they're interested in, home runs. If they strike out, I don't care. It's basically the mission statement. And they've got a whole lineup of it. Right? And so if there's one injury, like DJ LeMahieu, it screws up the entire roster because they don't have any other flexibility. They've got no flexibility in there. They've got a basic team of DHs. Tampa Bay and Boston, they run their organization perfect because they've got a bunch of versatile guys. They've got guys that have athleticism and speed and can make things happen on the base paths. The Yankees have one statement only. They're going to stand there, try and hit a home run. If they don't, they'll strike out and they don't care. That's the difference.
Yep. No, it's spot on. And the thing is, we all know the old saying, you can't get out of a hitting, you can't break a slump on the bench. But at the same time, when you have a guy like Voit, when they were using him off the bench and he was hitting because he was angry, and we were praising angry Voit. And then he got cold again, so he was on the bench. But then what did he do after, he didn't reestablish that role when he was given the chances. If you're constantly failing, you're going to be used less and less. So Voit created his own problem.
He did. And also Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman fell out of love with Luke Voit.
Yeah.
And he also made it clear to the organization that they weren't going to use him. Because if you look, I would say the wild card game was an opportunity to play him. They could have found a way of getting his back in the lineup because if you looked at the Yankees lineup, I mean, it was noticeable. It was stark. Basically, they lined up our three best hitters, Rizzo, Judge, and Stanton, right? And then after that, it was like a dark hole, an abyss. And that's why the wild card game went the way it was. The Yankees went 1 for 20 with one infield single from Aaron Judge. For one infield single from 4 down to 9. That was
like when we were talking about with the outfielders yesterday. Why not? When it was dismissed about having Gallo further down in the lineup. Well, why would you not want to do that? Wouldn't you want to be able to spread out, your bigger hitters, so there are no weak spots in the lineup? You want to have. Could you imagine having at the bottom of the lineup, people that are on the back of their baseball cards have good on base percentages? So if your 8 and 9 is Gallo and Wade, for example, and then you have coming to the top of your lineup a contact guy batting first like LeMahieu, and then the power guy like Judge behind that. Okay. You're setting up a formula that can be successful, especially with Gallo and Wade run the bases very well. So, if the Yankees are going to utilize the power and speed on the bases, that's the way you want to formulate it.
Listen, I really don't know, but there's so much work that needs to be done. I agree. They need to get speed involved. But basically the point was basically for 4th down to 9, it was a dark hole. And it was quite easy for the Red Sox to navigate. There's a lot of problems here, man. It speaks to arrogance. There's the key word. That's what Kevin Kernan says. Arrogance. There's an arrogance in the coaching staff. Aaron Boone, he's quite arrogant. Apparently everyone says he's a lovely guy. I don't doubt that. I'm sure he's a lovely guy. That's why the Yankee players love him, because he never holds anybody to account. He doesn't hold anybody to account. He can do whatever he wants.
Like the Oprah.
Of course, you're gonna love that.
He's like the Oprah Winfrey of managers. You get a hug. You get a hug. Everybody gets a hug.
Get a hug. Went 0 for 5 with 3 errors. Get a hug. You're playing tomorrow.
Yep.
Right. So there's no accountability. Aaron Boone never holds himself accountable, as you saw in the post game. Oh, I hold my head up high. I'm glad you do, bro. Phil Nevin, not my fault. It's everybody else's fault, not mine. Phil Nevin, right? So this is the coaching staff arrogant. Brian Cashman, supremely arrogant. He had to make about a dozen trades just to save the season, right? Which spoke to the fact that the Yankees realized that they made mistakes going into this year, right? Yeah. And Michael K asked the question during the year. So would you say that maybe the roster construction was an issue? Nope, says Brian Cashman. Not at all. Nothing I did. Nope. He never holds himself accountable. Aaron Boone never holds himself accountable. The coaching staff never hold themselves accountable. And the players don't hold themselves accountable because management never holds the players accountable. Nobody's held accountable. It is a unbelievable situation we're in. And it really hurts me. It really angers me. I can't believe that such a great organization is being destroyed from within by no accountability. It's a country club.
Yeah. And that's why this offseason there needs to be serious changes. Is they're a lost organization. And they're sitting on their own island, and that's why they think that they're the top dog. Well, if you're the only one on that island, yeah, you are top dog, but you're also on the bottom as well. Because everybody else is looking at you going, we're all over here having fun in the playoffs and you're all the way over there.
Yeah. But they've never held themselves accountable before. So why should they start now? I'm not convinced they're going to make changes. Are you, bro?
No, I'm not. And that's what's so aggravating.
Yeah.
You grow up as a fan of a very proud organization. And you're like, well, I'm the luckiest fan in the world that I get to watch this team just be, year after year with success. Was every year, did they win every single year? No, but they were a threat every year.
Yeah.
I want that back so bad. I'm desperate for it. I want to be that threat again. And when they made those trades in the offseason, I thought we were getting back to that because you were starting to see a more balanced lineup. And again, analytics rears its ugly head, and they tore that whole thing to shit. And they ended up going right back to where they were at the bottom of the barrel.
Exactly. What's really hard was to watch that wild card game and no, it wasn't that. It was watching this whole season, knowing what the outcome was. Yeah. And we've said it all four of us, Evan, you, Rob, myself, we kind of knew what was going to happen. The writing was on the wall. Evan knew for a fact what was going to happen. And I was resigned basically since day one. I knew exactly what was going to happen. The outcome was.
No, I
only
think
gonna
I
be
was the
one
only
thing.
idiot
It was
that was
either
still
going to be
holding
we
out
don't
hope.
make the. Yeah. The only outcome was we were either going to not make the playoffs, or we were going to lose the wild card game, or we're going to lose the DS. There was never going to be any other outcome than that. That was just the reality. This team wasn't good enough. It wasn't constituted well enough, and there's absolutely no accountability held within the organization. And I knew what the outcome was. So when I watched that wild card game, I was resigned. That's a horrible feeling for a fan. Every fan should have hope. Every fan should have trust that the people in charge are doing everything they can to make that team the best it can be. But the Yankees don't do it because the Yankees have gone comfortable and they've gotten arrogant within that comfort.
Yep. No, exactly. But we're going to leave it at the argument at that. And on Monday, we will be back with the four of us, and we will be breaking down the infield players and grading them. And just hope everybody enjoys their weekend. Just remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out the links in the description. We will be putting the link to that Ball 9 article so you guys can read it for yourself. It's a must read. And you'll definitely enjoy it, and everything else from Ball 9. It's a great website. Chris Vitale does a phenomenal job. And just remember, wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.
Play harder than the Yankees do.